Rebel salute, rebel salute, rebel salute. This is Kenya Revolutionary for an emergency hangout. I didn't schedule this, but there was something that was actually tingling in my mind, and that is what's going to happen because the parliament starts in a few hours. They kind of will get back. Our parliamentarians, we shall resume in their parliamentary duties later today. I know it's late morning in Kenya as of right now. So, in a few hours, they shall be getting back to business. The question is, what will be their first order of business when they get back? As you've heard in the weekends, funerals and barazas and their usual, public pronouncements, the ODM side or Azimio side, let me just say that their first order of business will be to um, pass this NADCO thing, discuss it, debate it, the NADCO proposal that was headed by Ichungwa and Kalonzo Musyoka. And they will try to actually pass it so that, and after that, that's when they'll actually agree on talking, discussing the process of which they will choose the next IEBC commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, before I get to that, if you haven't subscribed to this channel, please go ahead and subscribe. Like this video if you're watching it, wherever you are, go ahead and subscribe. I'll give you a few minutes to do so, wherever you are. Please get active, get active, get active. Do so as soon as possible before we get to that topic, okay? Are you there? Thank you very much. Go ahead, like the video, and subscribe if you are watching this for the first time. Please go ahead and do so as we get to the mada. All right. Sawa basi, tuingie. I know it's very late. Some people are probably still sleeping. If you're living in Kenya, it's pretty late, but let's get to it. Like. Let's get the likes up before we get started. Like it up, like, so people can see it. So your friends can get the notification and come in and chime in the topic. Now, the question is, what happens if NADCO is passed in Parliament? The NADCO proposal. Remember it? Remember the NADCO? Yes, that one. Because even within this NADCO, they were proposing to get more IEBC commissioners to be included in the next choice. And the Azimio and Kenya Kwanza folks, because actually this NADCO thing was comprises of mostly Azimio and Kenya Kwanza coalition political party coalitions, okay? So where does that leave us? Because here we have the courts that has pronounced itself and say that, hey, this thing is not anchored in law, so it's unlawful. We can't actually ratify it. You can pass it in the parliament. You can't pass something that's illegal. But what if this happens? Because these two political giants do want it. They want to vote it. Raila Odinga will probably tell his member of parliament, his member legislative arm of government, part of his coalition, to pass this if there's a vote, bring vote about, okay? And Ruto, in the spirit of this agreement, might say, hey, listen, let's go ahead and do this. No, we both want this, so let's honor our part of the agreement. So let's pass it. The question is, there has been cracks because what Ichungwa was saying earlier yesterday was that the process of choosing the IEBC does not have a provision that requires Raila Odinga and his friends on the Azimio side to be consulted, which he's right. But in case they agree to do this, if Ruto makes the call and tells Ichungwa, hey, tone it down, let's keep up with, in the spirit of the NADCO coalition, national unity, as they usually tell us, because these two political coalitions always try to convince us that Kenya cannot go on without them having some form of agreement or handshake. Without that, Kenya cannot be peaceful and business cannot go on as usual. That's what they're telling us. And that's how they explained to us. That's why we had the handshake last time, right? So in the event that these two political coalitions say, you know what, we are going to ignore what the judiciary, the judge, told us that it's not anchored in law, and continue and say, hey, listen, we are passing this thing in order for us to go to a referendum and have this thing realized. If they start putting in the process of implementing this NADCO proposal by disregarding what the court said about it, what happens then? Is it a constitutional crisis, or will it be a case of just this parliamentary, these two coalition parties not obeying the judiciary, the law? They don't have to obey the judiciary, but they have to obey the law, because this thing is illegal. It's unconstitutional. But if it's passed, then where does that leave us? Because again, not to sound repetitive, the courts have declared itself and said this thing is not anchored in law. But if the coalitions, members of this parliament, of this two coalition government, the coalition parties say that we are going to pass it, where does that leave us? That will be a total disregard of the law. So two possibilities that can happen here. Number one, we already know. Our body, or Kiom Tata or Ekuru Court, shall run to the courts and put a petition, citing the articles in the law that is being violated by this action. In this case, whatever motion, whatever bill that shall be brought forward shall end up being debated in court, and we shall have the very same ruling again that will declare this thing unconstitutional as it is. Okay? And it's either they will stop, or something else might happen. There's the Mio side of the government. They've made it very clear that the president, even though he has the constitutional mandate to go ahead and continue with the process of choosing the next electoral IBC commissioners as it is required, pick the selection panel, okay? They said if he continues doing that, then they'll only consider that IBC a Kenya Kwanza IBC. It will not be the nation's IBC. So most likely what will happen is that the Azimio side of government shall go back to the streets, and we shall have what? Maandamano. Now, somebody questioned me yesterday. I was in another panel and told me that he asked me a question, and he told me that, you know what? Regardless of what the courts said about this NADCO, the parliament is not limited, are not gagged, they're not stopped. There's nothing stopping the parliament from debating this NADCO proposal, from voting it, discussing it at the parliament. There's nothing that bars them from that. And I said, I agree with that. The court did not say that this proposal cannot be discussed at the parliament. It can. But the problem is that the proposal itself was actually created, okay? It emanated somewhere outside of the parliament, okay? By people who do not represent any constituency. There was no representation during the discussion, okay? Yes, you can argue that Ichungwa was there, he's an MP or whatever, senator, whatever the case is. There was that MP from Kericho or whatever. What's his name? I forgot, Cheruyot, okay? Among others. But in order for it to be legal, the issue should have been discussed, debated thoroughly at the parliament, the body of the legislative body that is actually constitutionally given this authority to bring bills and debate it and make laws, okay? So that is what I argued. So they can go and discuss it. And actually, the judge said as much. He said, yes, if these two political coalitions wants to discuss this issue, well and good. I'm not stopping you. Go ahead and do that. But I just want to let you know that you can discuss it all you want, but the talks are not anchored in law. Okay? You cannot realize what you're proposing because it is illegal. It is not by the law. For example, like I gave the example. In this NADCO report, they are asking for more commissioners than actually the Constitution requires. Remember Kalonzo when he was telling us that they'll pick, 4 more commissioners than the normal? Okay? And this is not constitutional. So that means that we have to have a plebiscite. And again, we cannot have a plebiscite and go to amend our constitution if the motion did not emanate from the people. Remember, this NADCO discussion was between 2 coalition partners. And even so, it wasn't representative. It was outside the parliament. Okay? Now, again, I was asked this question, and I'll make this short. I won't stay here for long. I was just making this video so we can actually explore. And hopefully we'll hear the debates tomorrow if that issue is brought to parliament tomorrow. Okay? Or in a few hours. All right? I was asked in 2007, the discussions that took place between, I think, ODM at the time and was it PNU? Okay? Were extra parliamentary. And my answer was this. Yes, it was. But you have to remember the circumstances under which this took place. Okay? We had an election in 2007. And there was gross misconduct, allegation of rigging that was glaring. Anyone and his mama could tell that something was wrong with this election. Rigging had taken place. So when the election results were announced suspiciously at midnight somewhere in someone's basement, if you remember, the now infamous Kivuitu, rest in peace, wherever he is, okay, made the announcement in the middle of the night. Violence erupted everywhere in the corner of this great nation, whether it was in Rift Valley, Kisumu, Nairobi, Molo, okay. The country was almost descending into a civil war. And there had to be an international intervention. We remember Kofi Annan had to fly in. The head of the AU at that time, I think his name was Okafor, the former president of Ghana, had to fly into. It even took the Secretary of State at the time, Miss Condoleezza Rice, from the Bush administration, had to fly in Nairobi for a 3-day visit, where he had to tell Raila Odinga and Kibaki, boys, you need to get it straight, okay? Because the country is burning. Ocampo had to come in, okay? Judge Kriegler had to come in to set up these talks. And also remember, when these talks began, again, Mudaura, who has been brought back by, not Uhuru, but Ruto's government. But that's besides the point. What I'm trying to say is this. It was an unusual time in Kenya's history. The country was burning. We were facing civil war. So the international community had to intervene and created talks between PNU and ODM at the time. And those talks were channeled, whatever proposal that was made was channeled through the parliament to be implemented as law, where it later gave birth to the new constitution. Okay? So what I'm saying is this: the circumstances under which the talks were undertaken took place in 2007 was not the same as the circumstances in 2024. In 2007, we had a civil war, which required the international community to actually encourage this talk between these two factions in order to bring peace, because Kibaki decided to do away with the rule of law, and he said, I am the president, I declare myself president, and he was sworn in at midnight. Okay, let's remember that. In 2024, the election results before that, just to jog your memory, as we know, the election happened. Raila felt that this election was not, was not fair, and he put a petition at the Supreme Court, went to the Supreme Court, and Koome said, hey, this is null and void. There was no evidence that suggests that this election was not fair, free, transparent, and verifiable. It's actually all of the above, which actually meets the threshold as it is required by the Constitution. So Koome said, hey, I've looked at this case, and there's nothing that suggests that this election was not fair. So the IEBC results was upheld. Ruto's victory was upheld. There was no violence after that. There was tension, but there was no violence. Yes, we had Mandamano 5 months later, okay, when the Azimio folks actually say that they wanted something akin to the 2008 arrangement of Kofi Annan Accord. Okay, again, the difference, the glaring difference that we shouldn't forget was that in 2007, immediately that the results were, when the results were announced, remember, I don't know how old you are when you listener, dear listener, and whoever is watching, but there was a delay in the announcements of the presidential results. And once it was announced that Kibaki won, and anyone who has any common sense know that Kibaki did not win that election. When it was announced, there was sporadic acts of violence everywhere in Kenya. That is not the case in 2022, was not the case in 2022, okay? So the circumstances were different, okay? So for Raila Odinga and his Azimio folks asking for an arrangement akin to the Kofi Annan talks, basically, which is a government of national unity, it does not make any sense, because in 2022, by all evidence presented in a court of law, there's no iota of evidence that suggests that his votes were stolen. I know some Azimio diehards might disagree, but hey, facts over feelings, okay? So he cannot ask for something that is under a different circumstance, okay? The country has fairly moved on. Now, we can agree that Ruto's performance is not the best. He's not performing well as a president. He's not popular, but are those grounds for the Azimio folks to ask for an Osumkate? The answer is no. There are other ways in which you can actually remove the president. You can either wait till 2007, you can try to impeach him, or something else. If he's breaking the law, we can actually see how we go about it, okay? So what I'm saying is this: if this two-party coalition decide to pass these NADCO recommendations, okay, that has been declared unconstitutional by the judiciary, what it might lead to is chaos, anarchy, confusion. Okay? Because you cannot force Kenyans to change the constitution by obeying a proposal that has been declared an illegal proposal. The process in which it is like saying that let's implement the BBI after the court says this BBI is illegal. How does that even work? That's why I'm saying the most likely thing that's going to happen is that even if they debate it tomorrow or in a few hours when the parliament resumes, this thing will still go back to courts, whether it's a high court or appellate court or even Supreme Court. Okay. And I suspect they might try to take it to the Supreme Court this time. But regardless, what will happen is that this NADCO proposal will be shot down. While this is happening, and this is where my prediction is, okay, if I was to be, clairvoyance, this is what will happen. The courts shall shut this thing down. It might be passed, okay? The courts shall shut it down, and once it's shut down, the president will go ahead and choose the next IEBC commissioner as it is spelled out in our constitution. But as a result, Azimio will live to their threats and go back for a mandamano. But this mandamano will be dressed as a protest against this regime, a protest against the failures of William Ruto, a protest about what will be tagged or termed as impunity by William Ruto. Because as you can hear, most of the Azimio folks in these rallies, they are telling their followers, they are telling the public that Ruto is above the law. Ruto wants to appoint his own IEBC commissioners so that he can win the 2027 elections. That's how they are preparing their supporters and the public psychologically, okay? They are banking on their ignorance. I showed you on my previous video that the process of which the IEBC commissioner is chosen starts with the president choosing the selection panel. These selection panel are not members of UDA or Kenya Kwanza. That's not what the law says. I won't get into that. Go watch my other video, which is titled "How ODM Wants to Drag the Country into a whatever crisis, or okay, constitutional crisis." Go watch that video. I explain it and break it down how the process is. Okay, it's actually a very good, thorough process that guarantees that the president is not appointing his own friends to be the IBC chairman or whatever IBC commissioners. Okay, go watch that video so you can see what I'm talking about. So what I'm saying is this: the ODM are already preparing the ground for the next, not the ODM, but the Azimio are preparing a ground for mandamano. Like I said, this thing has been shut down by the courts by pointing out that it's not anchored in law. The discussion shall be debated in parliament, and most likely, going by what Ichungwa is saying, they shall not even entertain the idea of voting it to bring it to law, because it is unlawful. The discussion itself was unlawful, okay? So after that happens, what will happen is the Azimio side, already playing into the ignorance of their followers and their unsuspecting listeners, will claim that their appointment, the process in which they're appointing, the process of appointing the new commissioner as it is required by the Constitution, they will say that that process is illegal. And you already had Wandai and these Azimio folks, even Wamalwa said it, that if the president goes ahead to chagua the next IBC commissioner or the selection panel, they will consider it the IBC that belongs to Kenya Kwanza, not the country's Kenya Kwanza. So basically, they are trying to portray Ruto as somebody who is not respecting the law, and they will couple that with the failures of Ruto failing to deliver on his promises, the failing economy, and the high cost of living, and they will use all that as a reason to drive people to the streets for maandamano in order to force the government's hand in committing atrocities. Because, you know, every time we have maandamanos, especially the one that is led by the Raila Odinga and the ODM folks or Azimio folks, it always ends up bloody. And then after that exchange, it will be the perfect storm for these Azimio folks to actually bring in international community saying that, hey, look at these atrocities that are happening. Our supporters are being killed and all that nonsense. Then they shall come back to the table, just like in 2007, come to the table and try to pass this NADCO report and tell us that the only way we can have peace in Kenya is to actually accept this NADCO report because it is inclusive, as Wandai once told us when he was at Spice FM. He told us this NADCO report is something that is inclusive, that will bring everybody, every Kenya will feel represented. But in reality, it will be only inclusive in the sense that only these politicians, especially from both sides of the aisle, of the political aisle, will gain. But it will be very, very, very not advantageous and not in the interest of the everyday wananchi. Okay, so that is how they want to play it out. They know this thing is not anchored in law. The judge has said so. So the next step is try to bring it in the parliament, in the floor of the parliament, and you know what happened. The Otiende Amolo will come back and say, these guys, they don't want to discuss things in the government because, I mean, they don't want to discuss this in the legislative body because the legislative body has been captured. There's nothing we can do. So the only reason, the only way we can actually make the president listen is to go for a maandamano. Watch the space. This is what is about to happen in the next few weeks, and I will be here to confirm my prophecy. Ladies and gentlemen, brothers and sisters, friends, enemies, and comrades, in case you're watching this video for the first time or second time or third time or 100 times and you haven't subscribed yet, take a minute, go ahead and subscribe to this channel, make sure you like it, and comment down below. Tell me, am I smoking something? Am I crazy? Am I just babbling? I will greatly appreciate, but don't forget to like it so you can get the notification every time I come live. I will go live tomorrow and I will join you right here when the parliament resumes, and we shall analyze what the arguments are from both sides. My name is Kenya Revolutionary, ladies and gentlemen, brothers, sisters, friends, and comrades. Like I said, share, like, comment, and most importantly, subscribe so you can get the notification. And make sure you get it on your phone. Look at your phone. Make sure that phone, the notification thing is on. So every time I come in live, you can hear that ding and you come in. I always post the link here. I just wanted to make a few 30 minutes video just to talk about the possibility of what might happen if the NADCO thing is passed in parliament tomorrow or during this parliamentary session that will commence in a few hours. Okay? Again, my name is Kenya Revolutionary. Thank you very much for watching. Subscribe, share, like, comment, and I will see you next time. Peace and blessings.